Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So in today's video we'll be talking about this winter storm. Now it is at this point likely that will be occurring, almost a certainty. The amounts are still a bit uncertain across large cities like Dallas for example. And it is an exciting event. It could be progressing into Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, and a lot of models are actually indicating for that now, so I don't think it will be a nor'easter, but there's a lot of stuff to go over regardless. So if you guys enjoy this video, consider giving it a like, and if you like this video, like my other videos, consider subscribing. It really helps out a lot. Let's start talking about this winter storm. Let's begin with the European model. So right now we are at the 12Z model run, so the latest model run as of today. And let's start zooming in onto our region, which is the south central United States. This is where most of the action will be going on for now. It could spread a bit further east in the coming days. Let's plan this out. Again, I would say that the European has done a decent job with the system. There's still a lot of disagreement for cities like Dallas, for example, and northern locations. And there could be, this system will have a sharp cutoff relatively. Especially if the rain is mixing in with the snow. If it's an all snow event, then the drop off will be more gradual across the north. But let's take a look at this. So really, right now, it doesn't look like much. And it's not as late as this because this was a bit older. So this is at 2 o'clock. Right now it's mainly 5 to 6 o'clock across Texas. And notice that what we see here is snow developing very quickly. This is today by midnight. Notice it's across the panhandles of Texas, Oklahoma, into southeastern Kansas, a good portion of eastern New Mexico. Notice this piles into Texas, right? We see a very, very strong area of snow. There could be some banding, and that's the thing. These mesoscale bands are near impossible to predict exactly where they will line up. It's basically impossible, and the National Weather Service has said that themselves. They generally know where these things will be because of the atmosphere and the lift in atmosphere and all the details that they look at, right? But even with that, it's still more or less a guess, and that's where the heaviest snow will fall. Now, let's take a look at this. Notice the European includes a lot of mixing. Now, it's not freezing rain. It's more of a mix. So rain, snow, or sleet. There could definitely be some freezing rain, but it does not look to be really a concern. Notice it shows a lot of sleet, a lot of ice. I do think strongly that this will be falling as mostly snow. There could be a bit of rain to the north. And, that wouldn't make sense that, you have snow here and then you have rain here to the north. That is because it's falling heavily. The precip could cool down the temperature profile, so that could start off as rain and then transition over to snow in the heavier bands, and then go back to rain in the lighter events and the lighter precip. I do think that this is overdone, though, this rain. There may be a bit of mixing, but the temperatures mostly support a snowy system to the north right here. Across these locations, to the south, across coastal areas, yes, that will be rain. Now, notice, this thing really quickly kind of dies out, it seems, into late tomorrow. This is at around 12 o'clock Monday morning. Notice, though, Louisiana seeing snow. Mississippi, again, a bit underdone. I think this snow will be a bit more widespread, especially in the heavier bands of snow. It will be snow, not a mix. And that's often the case that sometimes when it's a bit of a lighter precipitation, it loses ice nucleation, and that could cause it either to transition over to sleet or just more of a freezing drizzle type of thing. But this will be falling heavily. Notice Louisiana, Mississippi, and into Alabama. It shows that system moving through. Now again, if I were to make a judgment on the European compared to all the other models we could look at, I would say it's definitely in the lower partial. I like the European. I think it's one of the best models to look at. Unfortunately, I don't think it has the greatest handle on this system. I don't think it's off by, a huge margin, but a tiny margin is something still that it sometimes can't be even missed by a tiny margin, and that could, cause a lot of errors, a lot of, messes. So notice, for, say, Dallas-Fort Worth, this model, it doesn't show a lot. It shows it quickly going pretty heavily amounts towards the south and west. But as you go towards the north and northeast, you see an inch, maybe half an inch. So you will see snow, but not heavy, according to the European. across Dallas. Now notice Central Texas, the big country. I mean, you'll be seeing 8 inches widespread into portions of the Panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas. Decent amounts, nothing too heavy that you have seen heavier events this year. Notice 2, 3, 4 inches a possibility. Notice it does show quite a bit in Louisiana, Mississippi, and these, again, this is a bit further out. We still have this thing to kind of get details on. I would say that by tomorrow we should know what the second phase of the system will look like a bit more. But this will probably be still uncertain for, again, northern Texas up until, I would say, even while it's already occurring across Texas. It could be one of those things that's constantly changing. So this is a European. You may be looking at this and be a bit sad with the amounts of snow. Well, let's take a look at the Canadian. I want to show you many models so you can have an average look, right? Total accumulated snowfall. Notice what it shows. It brings more snow into Dallas. 3 inches. 1 to 3 inches, even 4 or 5 as you go to the south, quickly getting it up towards a foot of snow. Notice Amarillo, the Panhandle, 3 to 2 inches, generally the same. I said a foot of snow. Again, some of this snow will be very heavy and wet, so the Cuchera may do a better job across the heavier locations portraying that snow. I would say that there's going to be amounts over 6 inches, probably over 8. Over a foot or even up to a foot is more questionable. Definitely if, say a band sets up and one sets up on top of the other, yes, that's definitely enough to bring a foot of snow. But it should not be, across the whole state of Texas. Notice the Canadian does bring the snow into Louisiana and Mississippi and even into central Arkansas. Again, I would say that the global models, the Canadian, GFS, European, have done a moderate job, while the high-res models have stayed consistent. But the only thing that keeps me from saying, oh, the high-res are completely right, is because of the fact of how much snow they are showing, which, again, I don't think there will be that much, but regardless, we have to look at all of them. So this is the Canadian. Notice it shows generally similar amounts, a bit more towards the north, and a few deviations where it thinks maybe, a bit more rain could mix in, a bit more snow. Again, this is what it looks like, relatively the same. Now, taking a look at the GFS, regular GFS operational, let's take a look at the most recent model run. It just came in literally less than an hour ago. Notice, it shows some very heavy amounts where the bands peak, right? It does bring a bit of snow into Dallas. Again, the GFS ensembles, if you recall, were even more reluctant than the European to bring that snow towards northern Texas. Though it does show 1 to 3 inches, so the biggest event you've seen in, I would say, a few probably, you haven't seen snow last year, I don't think. Some folks said that they haven't seen really a big snow event across Dallas in a few years. I don't know exactly when, though. I don't live there, and I could check that, but I did not as of recording this video. Notice that this snow does, again, with this GFS spread into Louisiana, but it does quickly fade. It loses its atmospheric support. Will that happen? Again, not all models agree with that, especially the high-res. Though you can see up until... with the first wave, though, the GFS shows heavy amounts, and that's almost a given. Notice that central Texas into central northern Texas, all the way towards Louisiana, there could be some half a foot plus amounts. Again, these numbers may not seem like a lot, 6, 7 inches for those that live to the north, but, we haven't had a 6-inch event yet across Illinois, and, they're not that common even when they do occur. So this is, obviously, if 6 inches fall, it's going to be a rather mess. The roads should stay rather wet, but under these heavy snow bands, when you're getting a half an inch to an inch of snow per hour, you're going to be seeing snow-covered roads. They shouldn't be snow, compacted, covered, but rather more of a slush. That's still, though, enough to cause a havoc on the roads. Now, notice that this is what the GFS parallel shows, an upgraded version of the GFS. Also, the latest model run just came in an hour ago. Generally the same. You could see, though, the main difference is you could see it paints a bit more snow to the south. The concerning drop-off, again, you see a large city like, I think this might be Austin right here. I don't know which exactly one, but say there's a city right here, right, and you can see most models, I think the National Weather Service has 0 inches for you guys, but if a more aggressive scenario or even a slight deviation occurs, look at that, it goes from like 0 to 6 inches. Now, I don't think the Austin will be seeing 6 inches, let alone even maybe a few inches, but I wouldn't be surprised if, you're across the southern periphery of this event or the northern periphery, and you are expecting 1 to 2, and then you end up seeing 3 to 5. The National Weather Service says themselves that is, if that's going to occur anytime, it's most likely to do with this event, or it's likely to occur with this type of event. Notice it does bring the snow to Louisiana and Mississippi and Arkansas. Now, we are done with the high-res models for now, or sorry, the global models. I do want to look at the United Kingdom model, and this is generally a decent model. I would say it's a bit of a underperformer in terms of its accuracy, but notice it does take the general track, very later amounts, quite significant later amounts. Again, that's the one reason why I think this model is already a bit inaccurate, but it's still something to look at. Notice it does bring around 1 to 2 inches into Dallas. Now let's take a look at these exciting models. Right? I say exciting because these high-res models show a lot of snow for Dallas and the large cities. It's definitely a snow lover's dream. Now, people are going to be asking me, how much snow do I think Dallas will see? Well, the National Weather Service is calling anywhere from an inch across Dallas to across Fort Worth up to 3 to 4. There's going to be a sharp cutoff. So if you live across Dallas, I would say the further north you go, the lesser amounts will be. Now, how drastic that will be, is it just the southern suburbs that will see heavy amounts, or will it be all the way to the metropolitan area, and then north they could even see some heavier amounts? Again, the line where exactly it falls is a bit tricky. I would say, though, 1 to 5 inches is possible, right? And you may be thinking, 1 to 5 inches, that's a huge range. Again, if you're towards the north, closer to that 1 inch, towards the south, quickly towards the 5, even larger amounts. Dallas is a large city, and this line will be very thin, right? So let's take a look at the HER model just in terms of its reflectivity and precipitation rate. This is into today. This is at around 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock, right? It's moving into lots of the panhandles of Texas, Amarillo, into the Oklahoma panhandle, into southeastern Kansas a bit. I don't think it will be really reaching Dodge City. Notice into northwestern Oklahoma. I don't think that will again reach into Oklahoma City. But look at this. It starts getting support from the Gulf of Mexico, right, and from Mexico itself. We see a lot of rain, precipitation from the Pacific that went through Mexico. Notice that a lot of rain is occurring with this. A lot of snow as well. You can see we have some very, very heavy snowfall rates. Again, here it will be the most impressive. Tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the morning, 6 to 7 o'clock, very, very heavy snowfall rates, and that continues. Notice the difference between the HER model, the high-res and operational global models is it continues to snow well into southern Oklahoma. So Dallas would be clobbered by this compared to what the other models are showing. It does show a bit of that mixing, but it's way less than, say, the European model. Notice a bit of sleet, a bit of ice, very heavy snow where these bands set up, which again is going to be almost impossible to predict. This is just one model run. And notice what the HER model does. It brings the snow well into Louisiana, Mississippi, and into southern, and not even southern, but central Arkansas, potentially Little Rock getting some snow, and it continues bringing this far to the north into even southern Illinois, western Tennessee, western Kentucky, maybe extreme southeastern Missouri. The total snowfall amounts, I do warn you, they are relatively high with this model, and I don't think they will be this high, but it's a possibility. Now notice, say for example, Dallas would be seeing 5 to 6, 7 inches. It's a possibility. It's a for sure possibility. Is it supported by models? Yes and no. The high-res do support the HER model. The global models don't. Notice anywhere south, though, again, the amounts are very high, and the HER shows widespread amounts over 8 inches. Now, into Louisiana, it shows much of the same situation. The panhandles, again, weaker or lighter amounts of snow. But notice into southern central Arkansas, Little Rock, for example, picking up 1 to 2 inches, but southern locations picking up maybe up towards half a foot. Northern Louisiana, again, they do have a winter storm watch already issued, and Mississippi, again, something to watch for. Let's take a look at some other operational models. The RAP model, this goes out to 51 hours. It does not have the regional view, but it gives us a more broader view. Notice what it does. It does show a very similar thing. A lot of more snow to the north. While it does get a little bit iffy, you can see kind of a little bit of those lighter amounts, generally supporting towards those heavier amounts. I would say 3 to 5 if we were to take a look at the RAP model for Dallas and metropolitan areas around. Notice to the south, towards Austin, there's a sharp cutoff as well. I wouldn't say you're really going to be seeing much snow out of this whatsoever. There could be a bit more mixing, though, than what the National Weather Service is currently calling for. Notice 6, 7, 8 inches. The panhandles into New Mexico, Colorado as well. Denver not really picking up too much snow out of this. It seems it will be just south of you as it develops. And then notice it takes us well into Louisiana, even Mississippi, seeing that 10 of 9. 10 to potentially a foot of snow across those areas. I think a foot is a bit over an overestimate. I'm closer to that 6 to 10. If it happens what the like the RAP model showing. Notice that what it does show is again a lot of that snow occurring right, really not winding down as it pushes into eastern Texas. Notice the snow continues well into Monday night or Sunday night into Monday morning, and notice it does weaken as it pushes off, right? But it does drag that snow into potentially southern Tennessee, maybe northwestern Alabama, but again, Mississippi, north central Mississippi getting the most out of that. So I already showed you those snowfall amounts. Let's take a look at the NAM, a very, very high regarded model. Usually the National Weather Service really likes this model. And the NAM shows a very heavy snow event. And the National Weather Service doesn't think that will happen. There's a reasoning for that. They do say that it's a possibility. Notice that Louisiana, Arkansas, into Mississippi does see that snow. The NAM takes it well into northern Arkansas, right, into even Western Tennessee, Southern Tennessee as well, and then it kind of winds down. I don't think this will be any kind of a nor'easter for the Northeast whatsoever. Maybe a bit of some snow showers, right, but it really winds down across the Tennessee area. Now, in terms of total snowfall, again, the NAM shows some relatively high amounts. I think they are a bit too high in order for them to be realistic. Notice, especially across, say right there, 13 inches. I don't know. I really don't think. But Dallas, for example, according to this model, 8-9 inches of snow. Again, it's tough. I don't think they will see that. It's a possibility that they could see maybe up towards 4 or 5, and that will already be overproduction of an event. All right, so these amounts are probably a bit overdone, but honestly, where the heavier bands unfold, up to a foot is not out of the question. Notice panhandles generally consistent, the most consistent out of all areas of panhandle, seeing anywhere from 1 to 4 inches, and a bit more as you push into New Mexico and southwest. Now, again, the NAM shows heavy amounts in Mississippi, Louisiana, even Arkansas, 1, 2, 3, 4, pushing those amounts towards half a foot as you go down to the south. RDPS, right? It's a Canadian high-res. Again, I like the Canadian model. I think the Canadian has done a very, very good job this year. Actually, probably equally as good as the standard operational GFS. Probably not as good as the European, but again, the European is a very, very good model, so it's hard to beat the Euro. Notice the RDPS does bring that snow further to the north. Again, it does show lighter amounts to the north, obviously, but it does bring that enough close to the northern locations where they could be seeing 3 to 4 inches up until really the Dallas area, and then towards the border, lighter amounts. Notice it doesn't bring it really that far to the south, but it does bring it into Louisiana, not as much as into Mississippi or Arkansas, some of the other models, but it is still more in agreement with, say, the NAM or the HER or the RAP, rather than, say, the GFS or European model. Notice it does bring that in. Very nice development, very heavy snow occurring across Texas, Louisiana. It does dwindle it down, if you will, dissipate it rather quickly. And again, no nor'easter out of that event. Notice we do have a lot of activity, though, and I do want to spend a bit of time, if I have time for that, across or to talk about the upcoming pattern, as I have almost gone over every model I can show you. And I can show you the NAM 3KM, which is a high-res NAM-like model. It's a relatively good model, but notice, again, it mimics what the NAM 12KM shows. And if I were to take a look at the total snowfall, it probably shows isolated amounts higher amounts because it kind of shows that individual banding. But overall, again, generally a similar swath of snow to the high-res versus the global or European, which, take this much further to the south, this rain snow line, or the snow cutoff, if you will. I have the Chicago area pulled up, but let's go to, say, Dallas. You are under winter weather advisory. Now, again, the National Weather Service says that this will be an event that could still change. This isn't something that is set in stone, and even once this event is occurring, it's not out of the question. And notice, look at this. A winter weather advisory is in effect for North Texas, right? They're calling 1 to 2 inches, but isolated amounts 2 to 4 is possible. As you get towards Sherman, Greenville, right? These locations, I would say, is closer to that 1 inch. As you get towards Dallas, and even further south, even further west, Fort Worth, I would say 3 to 4 is more of a possibility. Now, Dallas itself, the metro, I would say 1 to 3. I know it's a range that is relatively weak compared to the high res, but it is, the global models show less than what the higher range or high res show. This is the official forecast. If I were to look at Dallas, just 4 miles northeast, they show new precipitation amounts. So they're showing rain, snow. Not really confident in that. And again, in terms of total snowfall, this is what they're calling for. How much you could reasonably expect? Less than 1 inch. Again, I think it'll be higher. But notice, Fort Worth is much higher already. And then once you get towards southwest, it's quite a bit of snow. Now, worst case scenario, this is what they're showing could happen. 2 inches. Again, I don't think the worst case scenario would be 2 inches. These worst case scenario for Dallas would be something like 6 or 7. But it's reasonable why, and it's understandable why the National Weather Service does include that. But that's why you have my channel to show you that if it does occur, it's not like if it came out of nowhere. It's because of the high res showing it. Now, does that mean it will occur? No. There's often times where it's sometimes even the reasonable amount is still more than expected, or more than actually occurred. Notice these numbers are still subject to change, and most likely they will kind of, I would say, maybe increase these a bit, just a tad. Again, there is a lot of information that is still kind of iffy and all over the place. Goes over how to measure the snow here, shows winter storm warnings, the snow timing. Let's go over to some larger or other larger cities. Amarillo, for you, again, 3 to 4 is what they're calling for, and dropping off rather quickly as you go towards the east. For some locations, this may be the biggest event of the year. I don't know. I know they've had some snow already. Don't know whether, Amarillo had a plus 5-inch event. That is possible. You could see, especially towards the south and west, which Amarillo is kind of in this viewer range. So a good amount of snow. Nothing historic for you guys. This is Midland. So that forecast office. Their snow amounts, I don't know if they have any. Well, by the way, anything that does fall, it's good. They do have a drought in place. But chance precipitation, snow, heavy snow. I want to find their total snowfall accumulations. I don't know why I can't. Let's just go to Big Spring and take a look at their snowfall amounts. 1, 2, 3, 3 to 5. Again, generally heavy, and that's good news. The snow will melt, obviously, and then that will be a bit of precipitation for the drought area, so that's good news, right? And then, let's say, even into portions of Austin, let's look at the southern Texas area. They are in a winter weather advisory. Again, it's another one of those cities that could easily see a bit more. Less than 1 inch, so they're actually showing a bit more for Austin and even for Dallas. Again, I don't think that's going to be the case, but that's what they're showing. Now, there's a winter storm watch into Louisiana and into eastern Texas. Right now, they're conservative with the amounts, right? 2 to 3, 3 to 4, but that makes sense as some amounts could be much higher. So we'll see. This may be an underperformer or an overperformer. If it starts overperforming in Texas, you're pretty much given that it will overperform in Louisiana. And I'm not saying about like one location or one city, just in general. If it produces more snow similar to what the high res showed, then it's going to probably produce more across Louisiana as there's more things working towards it. If it underproduces, that trend can be expected to continue. The rest of the country, really not that much going on. A few flood advisories from the snow melting and a bit of rainfall, I'm assuming, with that. And then notice that we do have special weather statements towards the north. Freeze watches and frost advisories pretty far into Florida. Definitely something we'll have to watch for. And you see, getting pretty chilly even for the Florida area. And in terms of the rest of the country, people are asking, what's the pattern holding for my location outside of the Texas area, which I focus on today. Again, a lot of potential for cold air. So notice, this weekend we have a large system. Again, this is still far out. This is just one representation of what could happen. That shows that, right? We have another system developing across the Northeast, potentially. Look at that, a very large system. A couple of models take this for the coast, a couple of models take it further inland than what I've shown there. And then notice the pattern does remain active with storm chances, snow chances. This is what the GFS shows. The GFS parallel is just coming in, but I can show you this on the pivotal weather. And in terms of its snowfall, well, let's just take a look at the 240 outlook. Notice with this weekend system and then potentially that northeast type system, very heavy snow again. And that could easily shift further out. Inland, coastal areas, notice Missouri, Arkansas picking up snow from this. And this is supported by a lot of models. The GFS showing a similar type of event. So definitely something interesting we'll have to watch for. But as of now, that is it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.